Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, joined by my two special co-hosts today. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, everybody.
I'm Dan from Chairman of the Board, regular host. You should know me by now.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Hi, I'm Jordan Franklin. I'm joining from FrankCon. We've got that going on first day, so from rainy Florida.
Yeah, so right now, today, we are streaming in from Florida, down in Sarasota. It's our first day of FrankCon, but this is a regular episode of Corporate Cardboard, but we do have a special guest this time to join us in discussing all sorts of fun things. And just like normal, we're going to go ahead and start our segment with the games that we've been playing. So we're going to talk about a couple games each, and let's jump into it. So Dan, why don't you start us off? What's something that you've been up to today?
Yeah, sure. So I've actually played quite a few games since the last episode. I'm also going to talk about a couple of them. First game I'm going to talk about is Maharaja, which is a recent Kickstarter fulfillment of a reprint of a Kramer and Keesling game. So this is a standard Kramer game where you are controlling areas. You're trying to get points different ways. But the different thing about this one is the way you're taking your actions is quite nicely. It's quite cool because you have these player wheels where you are essentially blindly choosing the different actions you want to select and then revealing at the same time as the other players. And it's also cool because the only regions that are scoring are the ones where the Maharaja is currently in. So he's kind of like this player piece that travels around the map, visiting these different cities. And you're trying to build these temples, you're trying to build these shrines, not only to kind of get your influence up in these regions, but also if you build them on these neutral areas in between the cities, you can use them to travel around the map. And if you don't have them built there, you're going to have to pay your opponent's money in order to actually travel down those roads. So a nice little economy there. Relatively simple, pretty streamlined, but I did quite like this one. I like the idea that you can, you know where the Maharaja is going, so you can plan accordingly. And you can actually manipulate that track as well. So if you know that your opponent's really invested in a certain location, you can actually manipulate the board to say that the Maharaja isn't going to go there anymore. It's a really nice game. Not his best area control game, but I still did enjoy it quite a lot. And there's some quite cool unique player powers in this one as well, which do spice the game up a little bit.
Wow, it's beautiful. Did they make any big changes or updates? I know this is like the second edition, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what those changes are because I didn't play the original. So I don't know if it's the player powers, but I know Simone Luciani was actually the kind of consultant, I suppose, who decided on the changes. So, but yeah, it works well. The player pieces, they're actually plastic, so it would be nice if they were wood. But it looks good, and it's a nice, fast area control game.
All right. Jordan, anything to add? And then Jordan, what have you been playing this week so far?
Most recently, Boulder Dash, actually. Played that last night. It was one that I thought, Boulder Dash has been around for a long time. It was actually one that I was thinking.
You're muted.
Sorry. So one that I've been playing is Boulder Dash. So Boulder Dash is one that I'm like, that's actually one I would actually probably say, why is that in your collection? But we played it. It's a good one. It's a great group game. So this is a game where you start out. Everyone's got a piece of paper. The player who's starting to lead, they go ahead and draw. You roll a die, and you choose a category. That category, it's going to have, there's going to be a funny law that's outdated kind of thing, or an acronym that you have to spell. And Boulder Dash has it's a real thing that exists. So you're trying to actually kind of come up with whatever that is actually on the card as one of the other players. If you are the one whose turn it is, then you're trying to fool everyone. So everyone puts in their submission for the answer. Then you read all the answers, trying as convincingly as possible to get them to guess the wrong one. And so you get points if they don't guess it. If you are correct, you also get points. So It's a quick game. It's a good one. So it's a classic for a reason.
I have to agree with you. This is one of my favorite games that's in this genre where you're kind of creating your own answers. I love it. I had a lot of laughs yesterday, specifically when the answers are exactly as absurd as everybody else's responses. I'm a big fan of this one. Dan, have you played Balderdash?
I haven't actually, no. One of those games that's always evaded me, but I heard it's really good. Just for some reason I haven't played it.
I think that this is definitely one you need to check out. I think you'd really get a kick out of it.
Yeah, I'll have to, because I can't imagine it's very expensive.
It's not. It's like $10. Awesome. Cool. So one game that I have been told to play a lot that I finally got in, it was tied up in a pre-order forever, was Under Falling Skies. So I'm super excited to get a hold of this one. It won Solo Game of the Year last year, and I figured, holy cow, I just need to get this played. And I did, and I was very, very, I guess not surprised, but very impressed. So it's one I really enjoy. It's got a very simple mechanic where you're going to be placing your dice into different spots. And when you do that, these dice are going to activate rooms. So the higher the dice, the better the effect. However, when you do that, you're also going to be triggering the movement of the enemies that are on the board. So it's kind of a Space Invaders style, and all these aliens are coming down. It is super well done. And I love that it was a print and play to start off with, but the more that it got noticed, and the more that people noticed it, CGE took it and said, hey, this game is real good. Let's go ahead and publish it and give it some good components, give it a campaign mode. And I think they did a wonderful job with this one. So I'm excited to jump into more. I've played about 3/4 of the campaign now, but I really enjoy the different components, the different ways that the game boards actually flip in order to change what the experience is each game. And just the game itself is very fast and very rewarding. I really like this one. Yeah. Have you guys played this, seen it, heard about it?
Yeah, I've heard about it and seen it, but I haven't played it myself. But it seems like there's quite a few games that have done this Space Invader idea, and it sounds like this is probably the best implementation of that.
Yeah,
it looks good. It looks really good.
Is this one that is solo only?
This one is solo only, which I think might be its biggest strength, actually, because it's designed with that solo mode. It's not trying to add something to a cooperative game or trying to shoehorn in a cooperative game. It's strictly, hey, this is the best way to play it, and I think it does its job extremely well. So really, really impressed with this one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I also like the idea of the dice as a component placement type thing. I like games that utilize that. It's a great use of dice.
And the best part about the dice placement, I just got to gush a little bit, is there are different colors. So when you play a gray die, you just do the effect like normal. But the white dice, there are 2 of them, so you have 5 dice total. If you put a white die out, you have to re-roll every other die, which can be good or bad. So you're like, okay, do I really need to get something better? And once you do it, you're committed, right? Because you've re-rolled everything, and you're like, oh, dang, why did I do that? Or it's cool because you really have to make those tough decisions, and it's such a small decision space, though, which is awesome. So I really like that. Dan, what's next on your games you've enjoyed this week?
Okay, so before I talk about the one I actually want to talk about, I just want to touch on some things I have played without going into any detail, really. So I played Tawin Suyi, which is a game that's on my shelf and has been there for a while. Really nice to get one back to the table. Still really enjoying that one. I got to play Agropolis, which you talked about a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Really solid little puzzly game. Enjoyed that one. And Nidavellir as well. And I finally got to play Brass, so I'll be uploading
Nice.
So I'll get to upload my thoughts on that one soon, but spoiler alert, it was amazing. I loved it.
Yes! Oh, I'm so happy to hear.
But the game I'm going to talk about in a bit more detail is Santa Maria. So Santa Maria is another game that uses dice in quite a clever way. This one is like a dice drafting game, but it's got a really cool puzzly element to this game where you have your own individual player board with kind of, I suppose it's got like a grid, and on one axis you've got 1 to 6 on your dice pit values, and on the other axis you've got the same. And you're drafting these dice, and then when you take one, you're going to activate every building from either kind of top to bottom or left to right, depending on which color you use. And then you activate every single building and basically block off the last building on that either vertical or horizontal axes. And as you're going on, you're putting more and more buildings on this map, so you've got this little puzzly element to it as well. And I love the kind of combos and the big powerful turns that ramp up in this game. I suppose this was the kind of main crux of the game for me. It was all about this puzzle element and how to get the most out of your turn that way. But the other parts were really good as well. You got some very simple contract fulfillment. You got climbing up some tracks and stuff to get more points and things. And you got some good like end game investments as well you can go for. But for a game that was, I think it was relatively easy to explain. There was very simple rules, but that decision space on the action board was really fascinating because not only are you trying to puzzle it out and get all your actions lined up, but the actual order in which you activate things is important as well, because if you do things in the wrong order, you can actually end up blocking spots off that if you did it in the other order, it wouldn't be blocked off. It's probably a thing you have to check out for yourself to work that out, but it's really enjoyable, and I was really impressed by this one, which I thought it would be because I do tend to really like dice drafters, but because I have so many now, I expect quite a high standard of them, and this one was right up there for me. I really enjoyed it.
Wow. Yeah, I heard this one get a lot of praise maybe 2-3 years ago when it came out at Essen. So I'm happy that it still holds up and it's still good.
Yeah, it is.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right, Jordan, what else have you been up to this week?
So another one for me is Imperial Settlers Roll and Write. So it's within that same world, the same for themes, from artwork. This is a village kind of building, resource gathering. You have a player sheet. It's got a couple buildings on it, which each kind of have their own actions. And then you've got a score sheet as well. And that score sheet has basically a half farm and a half collection, that tally score point type thing. So you're using your buildings as you're going along. You're collecting fruits and veggies, and then you're trying to fill in spaces in geometric shapes, which then upgrade your buildings and allow you to gather more stuff. So overall, as a roll and write, this one just came in as kind of okay. The first time we played it, it does have a solo mode to it, which have different sheets. The multiplayer mode, everyone gets the same starting sheet, but the solo mode, you get a different sheet every time. When we first played it, we actually used the solo mode sheets for each person, and the solo mode sheets actually made it more interesting because we weren't all doing the same thing, and there wasn't this strategy you could kind of latch onto. And so that would actually kind of be a recommendation going forward. I'd be like, just use the solo sheets. It'll make it more interesting. It's more fun. Because once you figure out the strategy for this one, you kind of stick to it. So that's what kind of makes this just an okay one. And I haven't played enough of it with the solo sheets to say that holds up over time. So we definitely want to try it again. So.
All right, good to hear. I'm glad that there's some variety in the box, and thanks for the recommendation. Tim is Average has joined us, and he says, sorry I'm late, and we have a third face. Yes, we've got our special guest. This is my brother, Jordan Franklin, that's joining us today. So awesome. Have you played this one, Dan?
No, I haven't. No, I've not even played the main one it's based on. I've heard really good things, but not actually heard much about this one at all. But
I agree. I've heard that it's got a good app, but I haven't heard much else. Yeah. Cool. All right. So the other game that I've been jumping into a lot is Burgle Bros 2. So Burgle Bros 2 was one that I was quite impressed with. So Burgle Bros is a game where you're going to be breaking into a building. And in the first game, you break into just a generic office building and you're trying to steal something from a safe. But in Burgle Bros 2, it's called the Casino Capers because you're breaking into a casino. So when you break in, it's got this really cool random setup that you're going to be using each game. And it's based on cards. So it's not something that you're going to have to keep on referencing a book. It's got a really easy setup. It's really streamlined a lot of things. And the other cool thing is that it's scenario based now, but not in the way you would normally imagine, where instead of setting up the scenario at the beginning of the game, it actually sets up in the middle of the game. So the gameplay is still similar. You're breaking into a casino, and when you go into the casino, as soon as you open the safe, then the game changes. So in this last one I played, we were going for a car. And so as soon as we opened up the safe, we found the car, and then we revealed the back of this card, and it told us what we had to do next. And I think that is such a cool idea. It is so neat because every game you play is going to be vastly different, and it's very cinematic. It's got a climax at the end of it. How cool is that? And the production in this game is also just crazy cool. So the game itself is actually positioned on this like 4 stands. It's a 2-level building that you're going to be on. So they put it on these large clear stands, and you actually have 2 levels of game, because some things are like escalators where they'll take you to the top floor and to the bottom floor. You've got monorails that'll move you around. Sometimes you'll be partying with somebody and you'll slide off the wall and you'll like actually fall down a level of the building. It's insane, and the actions are quick. You do 4 really quick actions. It's one that I really enjoyed. I was quite impressed. Burger Bros 2, if you like cooperative games, I think it's a good one.
Have you played the original one, Mackenzie?
I have played the original one. It's why I was excited to try this second one, because I was like, the original one was okay. It's not my favorite game. It was kind of just okay. You were kind of doing the same thing every time, but the second one really opened it up. It has that cinematic feeling. It's got less floors that you're kind of traversing through. The setup is easier. It's got these great game trays to help organize everything. I think it's just a much cleaner package as a whole. So really, really impressed with this one.
And what about the difficulty? Is it still really difficult? Because I know the first one was pretty hard to do.
I think that it depends on the characters you're using, and I think it also depends on the heist itself. So the first one I played, I lost dramatically. I think it was maybe just because it was the first one I'd played. But the second one I played was a lot easier because if you have a car in a casino, it's kind of hard for people to stop you. So I think it depends on the scenario, but overall, it's a great experience. And Tim says casino heists are always cool, and I gotta agree. It was pretty great. Jordan, have you seen this one? Heard anything about it?
This isn't one I've seen. No. How with the complexity level? What would you say? How many? You said it's easy. It's a little bit more streamlined than the original. How many of these cards are you reading through? We kind of had a discussion about game design and how when you put a lot of information on your cards, you end up kind of in this paralysis as you're learning each card. Once you get past that stage, you're fine, but the break-in is can be complex because you're having to come up to speed.
So I think that the complexity of this one's actually significantly lower. You only have 4 cards that you have to know what they do. And you're learning new things as you play, because you'll enter a room, you'll flip it, and you'll read what it does right then. So it's more about discovery, and so you're more learning along the way as opposed to learning everything up front, which I think is nice. It's really healthy. It's a good way to introduce a game. I like that.
And what about the method in which you're unlocking these saves this time? Because I know the last time it was kind of done in this, like you'd roll the dice and try to match up with the symbols of the vertical and horizontal.
Mm-hmm. So it does that the same way, except you have to find the dice. Instead of just adding them, you actually have to find the dice around. Okay. So you have these moles that are in the casino, and you have to go find them, and they give you the dice. So it encourages exploration. I think it's super well done. It's awesome. Cool. I love the poker chip mechanic is fun. There's a bunch of chips that are around. It's so good. I was so impressed. I went in ready to not really be impressed. To be like, sure, it's a sequel to an okay game. Let's hope it's better. And I was pleasantly surprised. I really like this one. Cool. Dan, any other game you want to talk about?
No, that's me done.
All right. And Jordan, anything else?
So one that I've been playing that's it's a favorite is Wingspan, but the digital edition. So that there's a Nintendo Switch version of this, and so the benefit or what's different is when you play a card on the digital edition, it sings the song of the bird. So there's a companion app that you can have on your phone if you're playing the regular Wingspan that's published. So if you are interested, you like the analog version, great. But that was just something that on the digital version was kind of a cool, gimmick. It feels more than a gimmick because the powers of the birds and the mechanics of the game are all based around the birds. So having that one more thing that's just bird based, what is something that's cool that's incorporated in the game. So that's one that was kind of a surprise as a digital. It stayed true to the original. The downside is it doesn't have the European expansion or the Oceania expansion, but the base game is still good.
That's a really cool touch, though. I like it. That's great. One more thing I do want to touch on is there is a new solo campaign expansion for Lost Ruins of Arnak that was just released these last couple weeks. So if you do have that game, jump in on it. It is very different. It's a little challenging, but it's cool. It has you use the system of Lost Ruins of Arnak in different ways, and I think that's really healthy for a game like that was kind of needing an expansion. So really cool. Cool. All right. So that's our first section for today. So now we're going to jump into our crowdfunding picks. And Dan, I'm going to have you go ahead and start us off. What are you excited for on any crowdfunding platforms this week?
So as I said a few episodes ago, if I'm not going to back anything myself, I'm not going to advocate anything. And I haven't backed anything since the last episode. So it's going to be a pass for me this week.
That's insane to me, Dan. This month was ridiculous for my wallet. Oh my gosh, May was crazy. I just recently did the the inventory, like the library update video, and this is a big month, man. That's wild to me. Nothing even like tempted you.
So Mosaic, I'm still on the fence with. I think the one you're going to talk about, I'm on the fence with, but nothing that's just been a no-brainer. Nothing I've just done it without thinking of. I'm trying to hold back and be a bit more choosy.
Okay. You're stronger than I, so I'm impressed, Dan. Jordan, anything that you've seen this week?
Yeah, so I haven't backed anything this week, but the one that has caught my eye is Isle of Cats. So this is one that seemed to get a lot of praise last year. It made people's lists of good games to play. The theme for me, not really a cat person. The idea of the cats, it seems a little goofy to me. But give it a chance. Isle of Cats. This seems like an expansion building on that. So if you already have a good game and you're putting more content out there, to me this is kind of convincing of go try it, go see what it's about. You've got people who are willing to put more effort into it and stuff. So to me that's it's an interesting that they're putting something else out there. So I will have to try it, see if it's worth it.
So Tim says, Dan, you have extremely high standards, and I gotta agree with him. Nothing breaks into your collection without being heavily tested.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, just some very nearly got past the line, but just needs to be guaranteed. I want this, and these just under that threshold a little bit.
So the Isle of Cats, Jordan, I agree with you. I think this one looks really awesome. This is actually one that we also got for the library. We have the base game, so the expansion seemed like a no-brainer. The Kickstarter edition generally comes with a bunch of little promos and extra pieces, and it's cheaper than having to ship all those from the UK. Right. So I think that this is the more economical approach to a game that I already really enjoy. So I like this one. Cool. So the game that I went ahead and decided to talk about this week is a very popular one, and this is probably the most well-funded board game on Kickstarter right now. This is going to be The Witcher, Old World. So this is a sandbox-style game set in the Witcher universe before all the stuff that's happening right now with Geralt of Rivia. And this is a game where you play as from a Witcher school, and it's your job to hunt monsters and kind of build up the reputation of your school. So this game really reminds me a lot of games like Western Legends or Xayah or Outer Rim, lots of games like that. And just the fact that it's very open and it's up to you on what you want to do and how you want to gain victory points, etc. So you have a couple of objectives that you're trying to do, and that can become from gambling, hunting monsters, or defeating other Witchers and kind of showing your prowess. So I really like the theme on this one. It looks really fun, and I'm quite impressed with the amount of mechanics that they've introduced. I really like that there's a cooperative and solo expansion as well. So I'm quite pleased with the direction they're taking this game. Are you guys fans of the Witcher franchise? Anything you enjoy?
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I'm reading through the books at the moment. I've just started watching the TV show, so I really like the IP. So I might go in on this one just because of maybe to play solo or something. But it looks cool. I'm a bit on the fence with going all in with with all the miniatures and things. I don't know if I'll just be happy with just the tokens, but still undecided.
For me, I haven't gotten into Witcher. I haven't gotten past the character being Superman. I'm able to put that aside.
That's amazing. I don't know. He's very different in the show. So I've played a little bit of the video game, and I've watched this series. I haven't read any of the books. That's something I do want to get into though, because I like this. I like this world. I like this idea, and the gameplay itself looks really solid. I feel like you're going to be just fine if you wait on this one, but if you do back it, there's a deluxe edition that comes with a lot of extra content. So that might be worth backing for the deluxe edition. So I don't know what you're going to do, Dan. And this could be it. This could be your next crowdfunding selection. Who knows?
It could be. It could be.
Is there dice drafting?
If there is, I'm buying it.
There's dice poker. Huh?
Okay.
Excellent. All right, so that's our crowdfunding section. And now we'll talk about the news. And once again, with another exciting segment. Dan, what are you talking about this week?
Nothing clear again this week, so I'll let you guys lead the way this time.
All right, so this week is pretty light news. Nothing extremely crazy important. Jordan, there was something you wanted to talk about with Stonemaier Games?
With Stonemaier Games. Oh, yeah, for news, if you're part of the champions for Stonemaier, you'll get an email. But basically, they have restocked a lot of their game supply. For me, I was looking to get the Oceania expansion, and so they pretty much have come back in stock. The one thing you won't find that they've restocked is the play mats, and I think because they may be a little bit outdated, that they're just not going to be putting those at their current. They may be coming back with extra space or something like that for the Oceania expansion, because I don't think it incorporates everything there. But yeah, for the most part, Stonemaier has restocked their goods. So another news as far as what's going on this week. Just from SideGame LLC and the Frank Con, we got that design challenge that we're doing this week. So you talked a little bit about it on your channel. Looking forward to that. Should be good. So.
Yeah, we've got a button shy design challenge that we're doing. So we're making the RPG in 18 cards. So it should be fun. I'm excited to see what turns out. So don't want to talk too much about it, because the idea is to keep it that 24-hour challenge. So I don't want to put too much brain thought into what's going to actually happen. 24 hours. 24 hours. The thing that I wanted to mention was that we got some pictures of the prototype for the new big box for Wingspan. So Wingspan, on the Stonemaier Champions page, they had been talking a lot about, hey, this is the new thing that we're going to be doing, and this is what the nesting box looks like. So the nesting box is this gigantic box for Wingspan. It's supposed to fit all expansions as well as future expansions. So you have a nice kind of like drawstring that you can pull to bring the rule books off the top. And as we keep looking here, this is just the white box copy, so no art on it, but it's going to have all the plastic in it. There's a spot for the dice tower so that doesn't get crushed. You've got the solo and the gold cards on a side. You've got built-in dividers for the different bird cards. So I'm not sure how I feel about this as a whole because of the direction they're taking with all these things. So there's a lot of wasted space with the plastic. I don't really like how everything is kind of all mixed up into one box here when they're going for this big box, because it seems a little bit more annoying. If you have a big box like this, it should be easy to organize everything, right? Like that's what I'm feeling about it. But apparently that's not how everybody else feels, because there's a poll at the end of this where he is asking people about different things. This first one, he says that most people prefer the built-in dividers, which I'm not sure I agree with, because that will kind of mess with card sleeves. Some people do agree that they sort their food tokens by type, though, so that's nice. Maybe he'll change something based on that. And a lot of people are totally up for buying this. About 86% of people that are voting, and it makes sense. If you're checking out this thing on the box, you're probably interested in buying it. So, any thoughts on this? Are you planning? Do you own Wingspan, Dan? Is this one you enjoy?
Yeah, I like the game. I did get rid of it. I enjoyed it while I had it. Played it 5 times or so. My girlfriend enjoyed it, but I think I played it a few times and was done with it. Didn't really hook me like a lot of what I did with a lot of people. Maybe just a little bit too light for my taste personally.
Gotcha. And Jordan, you enjoyed this one, yeah?
Yeah, so this is what I enjoy. I'm looking forward to the Oceanic expansion, which is out, but I just don't have, because it does get to a point where there are some mechanics in it that once you figure out those are the ones to target, that it becomes, all right, well, how fast can I get those cards? Or just looking, you're just looking the deck for those cards. So the Oceanic expansion, what I've heard is that it helps reduce that. It makes all the board spaces usable again. Would I get this in the current state? No. I think that it has gone through a couple iterations at this point that he's put out there. One of the big things that he was advocating was using the existing plastic that he's already given you. The little boxes, the Wingspan boxes, but some of the just some of the token kind of stuff. Looking at the if you look at 3D printed versions of dividers for this, there are some out there that are really good, even that incorporate small little design features, like example, just the first player token holder. Someone built that a recess into a box, that holds their cards, and then it's recessed, and then it says Wingspan. So there's just some small little design features that, especially if you're doing something like injection molding to make some of these pieces, that the incorporation of those features, the plastics that he currently gives you as part of the expansions, the boxes, they're pretty bulky. They don't fit well in the box. So sticking with that, I like the idea of reusing your plastic and you're reducing waste. So I would like to see him incorporated that, but it's this balance of like practicality and I don't know, reducing waste really. So yeah, we'll see kind of what the final looks like. It'd be interesting to see what the artwork looks like at the end too. If it's just kind of a reprinting of what the box looks like. Again, it's a nice box, but you put all the expansions into one box, and then now you've got 3 boxes that have good artwork that you don't use. So again, there goes some more waste there.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of good points there. It's kind of hard to argue with that. Like if you're trying to be waste conscious, but the whole purpose of the box is so that you don't need the other 3, it seems kind of silly. Yeah. Tim says that he was so excited, but he only wants Oceania. I agree with you, Tim. Oceania, I think, is the best expansion so far. I agree with a lot of the points you made, Jordan, where it actually does change the game. I was very much like you, Dan. I was very much done with Wingspan after playing it for a while, but Oceania, real good. Made me actually want to play the game.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
No, I haven't played the core box yet. I didn't try the expansion, so interesting to hear that you guys think it's good and it injects a bit of life into the game.
Definitely. It adds new endgame scoring cards that actually give you goals, so that way you're not just taking the egg action during the last round the whole time. So lots of updates. So that was my biggest thing, was like Jordan was saying, basically you just found all the cards that interacted with eggs and you just laid 1 million eggs. It was great.
So that was one I was actually thinking as a mechanic in this game, the end game scoring. You start out with 1 end game scoring, and I was thinking, well, why does it have to just be 1? You could give everyone multiple right off the bat, and all of a sudden your goals for everyone become suddenly different, and they're going to change every game. You're going to run through goal cards relatively faster, but at the same time, you're going to make the game goals as far as mechanics, what you're targeting to build during the game, going to be a little bit different. So if you don't have the Oceanic expansion, that would be a recommendation I would have. Go try that. Go start off with 3 or 4 goals.
Yeah, good idea.
See how it affects your game.
That's a great idea. All right. Our next section we're talking about is card and component appreciation. So in this one, we talk about things we love that are in our games. It can be art. It can be just the way something feels or looks. Let me know what you think. If you have any things you love, leave it in the comments. But Dan, start us off. What do you want to talk about this week that you just love?
Well, mine is a bit of a silly one, but I've done it because it makes me laugh. I think it's quite funny. So this is the score track to the Castles of Burgundy. So immensely popular game, one of the most popular Euro games ever made. And you'd think with a publisher like Alea, make board games all the time, you would think that they would. I'm not a graphic designer. I couldn't say I could do much, but I think I could imagine I could space out the score track equally so that it quite clearly runs around and ends where it starts. However, I love the way that by the time it gets to the end, the designers realise, like, oh god, I'm running out of space here. I'm never going to fit in 15 spaces in this little gap, so I'm going to do a bit of a zigzag to get it around and connect back to the beginning. And I just love the way they just left it there as well. They went, yeah, I'm happy with that. That's good. Sign that off. Quality control done.
This is great, because when you said that you were going to do this one, I was like, he just thinks it's really funny, isn't it? That's why. It's because it's ridiculous. Oh, I'm so happy that's your actual reason. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I will say that this feature, though, it is a visual cue. You know which side or where to start. You know, it doesn't look all the same, so you know where to start because you know where the end of this is. You know the game placement. It kind of tells you here's the left-hand corner, you know, kind of thing. So I can see someone signing off on this. I would probably sign off and be like, oh, that's a good idea. And then I would later go back and say, okay, this looks a little silly because why didn't we just make everything smaller or something, and then make it like a blue square to start or something. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I love it. That's fantastic. Jordan, what's your component for this week?
So my component for this week is from the game Acrotiri. So this is a tile placement game. It's a seafaring game. It's for 2 players. You draw a tile. You are looking for these tokens here. They're on islands. Each island that comes out is going to have a token that's someone has placed. And you have a boat. So you are exploring. You're getting further away. But at the end of the day, you have to get back to the center. But the component, board games, it's all about the tactile feel. It's about being in the little world that you're creating. And this boat here does it. It is a boat that holds 3 little storage units of whatever it is you're picking up from the islands. But you feel like you're like carrying cargo, and the fit is nice. It's just a nice little tactile component that you get to have as part of your little fleet that you're going around with. So that's my pick.
This is a great choice. Dan, does this remind you of anything?
Yeah, so this actually looks like it does what it's supposed to do, as in just being a little boat with the cubes that sit into it. So there's been a few other games that have done this, being Tiny Epic Pirates and Venice as well. And both of those, the way that they did it was so fiddly. I think they made their boats too, just tried to make it a bit too fiddly, a bit too detailed. Whereas this one just looks like it does what it's supposed to do, and without all the stupid sails on that are going to block your fingers and knock
simple.
things in. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would have been much more happy with
Simplicity
it.
is what makes it key, because definitely.
So if you like stuff like this, the most satisfying game that has like the little things that you section into is Container. Have you played that game?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is satisfaction. Mwah. It's big, chunky resin boats, and inside you're going to put these little block containers, and they feel great. And there's little notches in the boats that you put them in. It's not as small, but my gosh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Also, Dan, Tim agrees with you. He thinks it's hilarious, the board as well. All right, the last thing that we're talking about on this one is my pick, and this is from the game Zombicide. This is from 2nd edition. This is one of the abominations. This is the Greenwich Crew. Now, there's 2 reasons I really like this. First off, generally, abominations are supposed to be these giant, scary things that are chasing after you. But this is literally just a crew of people, and I honestly don't even know what they are. Do you have any ideas? I can't put my finger on what they're supposed to be. Is this like a group of dancers? Is this like a squad of some sort? It's set in New York, it's set in Washington D.C. So I'm not really sure exactly what it's supposed to be. But it's really funny. You got to have a group of zombies that look like they're an entourage of some sort. And I just think it's really hilarious because the miniature itself is just this group of these zombies that are kind of just looking all awkward. You know how zombies do. Any ideas? What is this? What do you see?
I can't see it clearly here because my picture's quite small, but it looks like it's like the Village People or something.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I see a cowboy, a police officer, a construction worker, a captain of a ship. But yeah, as a group, I'm not sure what they represent. Would you say what this crew is called again? The G word here.
The Greenwich.
The
crew.
Greenwich. Okay, as someone who lived in the Northeast, and your older brother, I have to say, I think that's Greenwich. That's how you spell Greenwich.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just wrong. Okay. So the Greenwich crew.
Do you guys know the Village People, the 80s pop band?
Oh, I had no idea what you were talking about, Dan. Okay. I thought you were just talking about people in a village. I was like,
the village.
No.
People, yeah.
YMCA?
The band, right? Yeah.
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 Oh.
I think it's them.
Oh, well, I clearly am lost. Well, I like this card. So, the other thing that I really enjoy about this card is its effect. So when they're eliminated, you replace them with 5 runners. So if you've played Zombicide, there's different tiers of zombies. So you have the abominations, which are the worst. They're really hard to kill, and eventually they'll get to you and they'll kill you. But once you kill them, usually you don't have to worry about it. You kind of get rid of the entire space. All the zombies go away. But these guys, when they're killed, they're replaced by runners, and runners are extremely scary. Normally, the zombies only get a single activation. They're going to go into your space, or they'll attack you if they're in your space already. But runners get 2 activations, so they become immediate threats. So not only do you have this giant threat that's looming after you, but as soon as you eliminate it, it bursts into a bunch of little threats. So really scary. I love this card in general, and I love what happens when it enters the board. It's hilarious when it enters the board, and then when it's eliminated, it's super scary. So very thematic. I really like this one. So that's my card / component appreciation.
Cool.
Awesome. Up next, we've got our This or That topic. And this time, it is a very controversial topic, actually. This is sleeves versus no sleeves. So this is as simple as a conversation can get here. What do you do? Dan, what's your opinion on this? Sleeves or no sleeves? I'm just going to be upfront about it. Go for it. Tell me.
Yeah, so if I had to say one or the other, I would actually say no sleeves. I can't think of the last game I sleeved, actually. The only time, or the only exceptions where I do definitely sleeve things are when, if a card gets nicked or marked, then it's going to affect the gameplay. Example, like a social deduction game, something like that, where you can see what the card is if it's got a dent on the back of it. But yeah, I think the more and more I've got into the hobby, actually, the less and less I sleeve, which is quite strange. But I think it's something I'm going to look at, actually. The games that are going to stay in my collection for forever, which I know they're going to stay there, I probably will start looking at sleeving them. But if I had to choose one or the other, I would say no sleeves.
What's the driver for you? Let's say economically, it was just as cheap to do no sleeve versus sleeves. Would you do it?
Yeah, I would.
You think you'd do it?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to say no sleeves as well, for a different reason though. So I played a lot of TCGs, LCGs. I think those have their place. I think those are sleeve games. But if I had to choose one, no sleeves. The reason, if you look at a lot of the cards, there's the gloss factor, the matte finish. If you're going to put sleeves on, and it starts to take, for me, it takes away a little bit of the artwork that's on the card. You start to lose a little bit of that, especially with like a matte finish game. Additionally, the artwork that's on the back, if you buy any sort of non see-through sleeve, and you're going to start losing that artwork that's on the back. Additionally, you've got this kind of border that's created with it. So there's this kind of like visual separation that this card now has with the rest of the game. The size that the cards take up then, what was maybe a shuffleable deck is now something that you're kind of like, I don't know, smearing on the table to shuffle up because that's easier than shuffling them and you don't want to ruin your sleeves. So there, I don't know, again, the kind of the tactile type thing, the visual thing. For me, there's, I see the argument for them, and then if you add the economical on top, what if you were to buy 2 games? How much are you spending in sleeves? If you're buying 2 games and you're really worried about the card losing its visual ability to tell you the information it needs to tell you over time, then what's the cost of buying 2 games? Because I know SideGame LLC spends a lot on sleeves. They're sleeving all their games, and they've got a sleeve budget.
So I'm just going to be straight up with you. I love sleeves. I sleeve everything. This is my favorite sleeve. So I agree with you, Jordan, that you should not get sleeves that have colored backs because you do want to see the artwork on your cards. And this is my biggest recommendation. You get Ultra Pro Matte clear sleeves. They are amazing. They're so wonderful. They let you appreciate the artwork. They shuffle extremely well. So that issue is solved.
All the problems?
I did. I mean, you had a bunch of issues and they're all gone now. You can shuffle them well, you can see the art clearly, and your cards are protected. And these are mass produced, so you don't really care if the sleeves get damaged. Okay, that is definitely the biggest issue here, is that sleeves are not free. You're totally right. It's about $4 for 100 sleeves. That's quite a lot of money when most card games are going to usually come with at least 100 cards. And you're probably adding 5, maybe 10 dollars to every game that you buy, essentially.
In reality, they would come with 101 cards, so that way it doesn't actually cover just one sleeve pack. Because that also always happens. It's like, oh, here's a 75 card game, and it only comes with 60 sleeves, and you're like, are you serious? You're always buying like at least 2 packs when you only needed really 1 and like an extra sleeve.
So because we sleeve everything, we buy sleeves in bulk. So usually when I'm buying sleeves, I'm buying like 20,000 sleeves at a time. So I'm buying a gigantic box of sleeves, and it's like $40. $40 for a whole bunch of sleeves. And I just have them sitting so that whenever a new game comes in, I can sleeve everything. Sleeving the games adds to the quality of the game. When people play it and it's their first time, they're like, wow, this is really nice. I love the way that these feel. They're in little protectors. Ooh. And it's like an actual draw. If people see a sleeve game, they're actually legitimately impressed. Or they're kind of like, what is happening here? It's really funny to see the reaction between these things. So I love sleeving games because personally, I played card games for a really long time, and it feels great when I shuffle cards in sleeves. It makes me feel better about handling the components. The game is very tactile, and I think that sleeving your cards adds to that. It makes you feel better about what you're handling. You can be a little bit more rough with them, and you're not worried about anything. I always use protection, and I recommend that you use protection as well. Right, Dan?
That's what we say. I completely agree.
We got some people in the comments. Tim says that he is a sleever. He knows he shouldn't. Don't let them tell you that, Dan. Or don't you tell them that, Tim. You sleeve away. It does add much, okay? It might be a compulsion, but it's a healthy one. And he also says...
so I have a comment for Tim.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah. So, Tim, if you said you were a CCG player back in the day, and that's a compulsion, how long have you not been a CCG player? Tell me that, because now I want to know time-wise. How long have you been one? How long have you not been? Now, because now you can use the excuse you haven't been a CCG player, and now you can not sleeve your cards. Start using that as your excuse.
Oh, geez. So interesting. So
I do have one. What about those components that kind of feel like they should have a sleeve, or like maybe like a little bit better print quality or something? Example, like in Carcassonne, the tiles. They're just kind of cardboard tiles. It would be nice if they were like kind of like a poker chip tile, or like something that was like just a little bit heavier. Do you ever sleeve anything like that? Are there sleeves for something like that? What do you think?
I think there are. I think there are tile sleeves now, but I've never done it.
That's a step that I am not willing to take. Tile sleeves? What?
Yeah, and I think there are even
the hypocrisy. You won't sleeve that. That thing's getting touched all the time, and it basically has built-in absorption. There's no coating on that. I mean, there's a coating, but it's like a very, very thin.
Yeah, as I thought. Don't try to play me. I know there's a coating on these things.
There's a coating on cards too, though. So there's the same argument. You've got coatings already built in. How many cards have you ruined with without sleeves. Like, are you going? Are you just like gumming up cards all the time? You wash your hands before, wash the table. That's my vote. My vote.
Geez, shame me. Goodness gracious. Tim has a response to you. He says, once a CCG player, always a CCG player. Oh, geez. Well, I don't know where everybody else stands on it. Well, I know where you two stand on it, but I feel strongly that I'm going to keep on sleeving stuff. I love the way it feels. Everything is uniform, and I like that. If you use the same sleeve for everything, you can always switch out stuff, so that's really nice. But you guys keep on not sleeving. I support your decisions. Oh my gosh. Anything else you want to add before we move on?
Yeah, should we go over last week's this or that?
Oh, that's right. So last week's this or that. What did we talk about? We talked about Century Spice Road versus Splendor, yeah?
We did, yeah. Forgive me for looking down. I'm just looking at my phone for the results.
No worries, Dan. When you're ready.
Okay. So, yeah, we did this or that, Splendor or Century Spice Road / Golem Edition.
Mm-hmm.
I think you went for Splendor. I went for Spice Road. What would you go for, Jordan? Have you played either of them, Jordan? Or?
So yes. So I've played both of them. I like the tactile feel of Splendor. It's got the poker chips. That's a great component. That I was actually thinking about putting that as my overall component this week with poker chips. And then with Splendor and Spice Road. Spice Road is great because you've got the multi-game components that then all come together and make one big game. That has nice little cubes as well. So when you're playing Akrotiri and you put those little cubes in the boat, it's the same cubes. So the tactile feel of that game is great as well. If I had to choose one, I have chose one. I chose Century Spice Road. So I like the digital version. I'll play digital versions every once in a while of games, kind of compare them. I like the digital version of Splendor. It's fast, it's quick. The tactile feel of the Spice Road is what does it for me. So
this is just dunk on Mackenzie week. I get it. Okay. So what did the audience say? Do they also disagree with me?
They did.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Very close though. Close. 41% to 59% in favor of Spice Road / Golem Edition. So another close one, and I think that's fair.
If that was a presidential election, that would be not considered close. That would be a complete, wiping. So.
True. Yeah. Okay.
Well, Dan's from the UK, so. Oh my god. All right. So, yeah. They're both good games. Like you said, it's close. How many people voted this time?
Just over 200, I think, 210 or so.
There you go. You 100 people that are with me. Good on you. All right. So up next, we're going to go ahead and jump into another one of my favorite segments. This is Mechanism Appreciation. So I love this one. We talk about an aspect of a game that we really enjoy, usually a game mechanic, something that is how the game is played. Sorry, my dog's freaking out on the couch here. She's real excited this morning. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Jordan, I'm going to have you start off this time. What is the mechanism that you really enjoy?
Sure, Mechanism Appreciation. Mine's from the game Title Blades. This is one I mentioned a little earlier. Great artwork. For me, it's a personal favorite. But the mechanism specifically in this game is the shell shield. So the shell shield, you take damage during the game. There's opportunities to collect shells, but shell shield is holding your shells. When you are going to battle monsters, you can get rid of some of your shells to take some of that damage for you. One or two of the shells, depending on how the strength of the monster, what round it is. And then you can use it, if you get enough shells, you can use it to change the result of a die. You can also spend them to increase your traits. So traits as you're going along the game, those are going to be things that enable you to do more actions, better things. You get more rewards as you play. So this one card has multi-function, and then you put on top of that the fact that you can upgrade the shell shield. You're going to get lucky if you end up upgrading it during the game. You only have so many opportunities to pull cards that would actually let you do the upgrade. And you're not going to upgrade it every game, but there is opportunity to upgrade it. So the fact that it has a lot of function, there are ways that there are ways to get tokens on it during the game, that you're using it in multi facets, whether it's battle or showing off to the judge. It's a cool mechanism, and all packed into one card. And so this was one that, as I'm thinking about components and things that we're going to do for the 18 game card design for the design game that we're doing this week, this is one that I'm going to kind of look at and say, that's a really good card. How can I bring a mechanism like that into my game?
I think it's a solid choice. I also agree with you. I think this is a very sound mechanism. I like that it has built-in mitigation, and it can kind of fix a flaw that people might perceive with the game. So I totally agree with you. I think this is great. Dan, have you played Tidal Blades?
No, I haven't. Never played it.
Great artwork, very controversial a little bit. A lot of people don't like the downtime, but I think that this game is really well done, and I find it pretty engaging even on other people's turns. So you're constantly looking to see whether people are going to pass or fail. Yeah, I like this one a lot. I think it's a good choice.
It has
Jordan.
a solo mode. It has a 2-player with a bot. It has it's good. I think there could be some issue once you get to multiplayer, and that could be where some of the dissent's coming in, especially. But it is a worker placement, and you have relatively few actions, so it does move once you understand kind of how the game plays and the components that are in it. It does move relatively quickly. So I'd say the deluxe version is great. It's got all the components, all the stuff. I go back and get a deluxe version, but you can go get this base version for like $40. So it would be something worth trying.
Great. All right, Dan, what is your mechanism for this week that you want to talk about?
Okay, so the mechanism is from a game called Ohanami, which I think is one of the best filler games to come out in quite some time. This one is essentially it's a card drafting game where you just have a bunch of cards, you're taking one, passing them along. And as you can see, you've got, I think it's 3 or 4 different suits here. You've got like the blue ones, the green ones, the pink ones. And they all score in similar but different ways. So, for example, the blue ones, I think, score from the first round, and they score you 3 points, let's say, and then they'll score you in the first, second, and third round. The green ones are worth more points, but they only start scoring from the second round, and so on. So you've got this kind of compounding scoring if you get the blue cards down early. So essentially, you're just trying to collect these cards to get points. But the thing that really differentiates itself from the other games like this, for me, is because each of these cards has a number on them, a unique number. I think it's like 1 to 120 or something. And when you are drafting, I think it's 2 of these cards at a time, you are going to place them on one of 3 columns, like you see from the picture here. And when you place them, you have to place them either above the highest card of a column or below the lowest card of a column. So you can end up having some quite big jumps at some time. So as you can see from this picture here, it goes from a 76 to an 83. So that means that whenever you take a card from, in between 76 and 83, you're going to run out of options to place that, especially as the other columns get bigger and bigger as well. So I love the way that as the game goes on, you're kind of getting pushed into a corner and your options are rapidly running out where you can place these cards, which might eventually result you in just discarding them and getting nothing, where your opponents are still being able to place them. So that numbered mechanism, I think it's super cool, and it just puts an added layer of pressure onto you. And it has an element of pushy luck as well, because you think I really want this pink card, but it's going to take me 20 places higher than my lowest card or than my highest card. But that's a risk I'm willing to take. So I really do like it. It's a fantastically well executed game, and a big part of it is that numbered mechanism. I think it's great.
Dan, this is a great choice. I think this is an incredible choice. This is my favorite style of that like stacking game from the game.
Yeah.
I think they do it so well here, and I totally agree with you. It adds an actual meaningful decision that you're like, oh my gosh, like I need these points, but it's gonna screw me. Is it worth it? And it's the draft, right? So you may see those cards again. So maybe you're betting on seeing specific numbers. It's awesome. I love this choice. Great choice.
Is this one, so when you are unable to play or unable to slide your card into a spot that you're done, but everyone else can keep going? Is that kind of the function as well?
I think you just discard them for that round, and then you take the next bunch of cards and can continue as normal. Mm-hmm. So it is obviously it's quite significant because some of these cards are worth quite a lot, and you're basically throwing 7 points away, or the next set collection and the pink cards can jump up 10 points or so from jump to jump. So it's not like a throwaway thing. You actually do care if you have to discard cards, because it can win or lose you the game essentially.
Okay. Yeah, because I was wondering if you could also control the speed of the game. I've seen this mechanism used where, okay, well, everyone's trying to kind of only edge along, but if you use this mechanism correctly, you can actually speed up the game if you're winning, or if you're not doing it as well and you want to end the game and kind of keep it close or something. Yeah.
Yeah, not quite. This one is definitely a set number of rounds, but you can do some hate drafting. You can look at your opponent and be like, oh, this card would be really good for you. And if you're not taken, you could definitely pull the things that would work well for them. Put them in that similar bind.
That sounds like a great mechanism, though.
It's a good game. Great choice, Dan. Great choice. So my mechanism appreciation for this week is for the game Too Many Bones. So Too Many Bones is a large adventure game where you're going to be rolling gobs of dice. So everything is dice driven. It's an RPG, so all your skills are also based on dice. And each die has all these multiple faces. So for example, you have some defense dice, you have attack dice, you have those skill dice I was talking about, but you always have a chance to miss. And a lot of people don't like that with dice, is that randomness that you can't potentially miss on things. For me, I really like it in solo and cooperative games because it adds that random element of chance and luck and kind of pressing your luck. But in this game in particular, they do a great thing with misses, and they're called bones. And as you can see here on this player mat, they have what's called a backup plan. And every time you miss, you'll take that bone and put it into your backup plan. And each character has special abilities that they can do based on what's in their backup plan. So even if you're missing, you might be able to do something really cool with those missing bones. And I think that's such an elegant system to kind of incentivizing and not punishing you too hard for missing. And I think that's great. I think it's a great solution to this where, yes, it sucks because you missed that thing, but you get a cool benefit out of it. And to put something on top of this, if you're able to collect enough bones, some of the higher level backup plan things are so strong. One of them in particular, if you get 6 bones, if you max it out, you actually get to upgrade your character for the whole rest of the game. And I think it's really fun because you're kind of teetering that line of like, ooh, can I get all my bones before this, because it's like tiny mini encounters before the mini encounter ends. It's so cool. I love the different choices, and some characters really have specialized backup plans, and I think it's a lot of fun. So really cool mechanism. I love the bones system in Too Many Bones. Have you guys played this one? I love this game. This is one of my favorites.
I haven't played this one, but this system is something that I really like. I think the Champions of Midgard did this one as well, didn't it? With one of the expansions, because I really hate roll to resolve games when if you lose you get nothing. But something like this just completely fixes that problem. So I think it's a great system, and more games should use it basically.
Yeah, I haven't played Too Many Bones, but I'd call this almost like a recycler type thing, or you are using your unused stuff, and I really like when you can get some increase it. It's almost like if you had a really bad strategy, you could go for the stuff recycler type thing. But when the advantages of the recycling are so good that you're like, okay, this is a mechanism that is. I agreed, underutilized in games.
And the coolest thing about Too Many Bones is some of these dice will have multiple bones on them. Or some dice are literally just bones because, hey, that could be a boon all in itself is, hey, this dice has 4 bones on it. So you could just straight away use one of your backup plans. Super cool. I love it. One of the characters, his whole, like, he has a special item you can find that literally just has bones on it. And so you're trying to roll a bunch of bones. And so your ultra miss is actually like an ultra pass. So it's really cool. I really like the bone system. I think they did a great job with it here. So awesome. Cool. Let's move on to the next portion. This is one of my favorite. We got a lot of favorite sections here, but this one I think is really, really fun. This is called the random game feature. This is where we go to Board Game Geek and we will hit the random game generator and we're just going to talk about what we see. Are you ready? Let's see what we find this week. So here we are. We're on Board Game Geek. Let's go ahead and find it. Hopefully I can find it first try this time. Aha!
Who is not sponsoring this video at all? Right.
Nope. Nobody sponsors SideGame LLC. Sponsored by me. All right. Are you ready? Random game. Here we go. Are you ready? Any guesses? Dan, good or a bad game? What do you think?
Bad.
You were right. Maybe. Actually, I can't say anything about this. So it looks like we have, it's got a great name. Get Some. Fantasy Warfare Skirmish Rules. 2 to 6 players, 10 and up. No ratings at all. Jordan, you want to read that description for us? What are we talking about today?
Yeah, sure. So this is Get Some Fantasy Warfare Skirmish Rules. Getting in the description, the skirmish rules use the Get Some system to play out small unit attacks in your fantasy game.
I'm sorry, did I go off a bit from you? Sorry.
Yeah. The rules have been tweaked to better stimulate small actions between war fans. This is a good way to try out an army or a basic rule set for Get Some without buying or using tons of models. Less than 10 models to a side usually, and games can be pretty fast, around 30 to 45 minutes. It is a great for a lunchtime league, and these rules will be used extensively in upcoming fantasy campaigns using the Get Some system. So it sounds like a very niche game that you're committed to the Get Some. It sounds almost like a minifigure type game. I have no background on this game, so
it looks like Get Some is an actual game. So this is just a very specific rule set for it. So let's go ahead and just look at what Get Some is. Okay, so we've got lots of different regions. Oh man, where does just Get Some? This is weird. Don't look at my search history, people. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Get Some. So it looks like it's got a lot of different factions in it.
Yeah.
Nothing's ranked though.
Nothing's ranked. It also looked like it had a run from 2012 to 2013. So it was kind of a short-lived, but lots of content for it.
Looks like some playtest rules. Sometimes that's what you get when you do the randomized game. Sometimes you just don't get anything worth talking about. Dan, anything you want to talk about? Tim, my feelings exactly. Okay.
Yeah, I don't quite know what to say about this one. It sounds like it's just like a rule set, really. Maybe use your own miniatures and things. I don't know. I don't know if it's kind of a half-made, proxy things, and just give you a template which to work with. But I've never heard of it. But it sounds like someone put a lot of effort into making all these different factions.
So there's one. So after all the things I've looked at, I found a single review on a single forum. It's called No Please. Oh no. It says Get Some Fantasy Rules is an awfully named miniatures independent rule set for mass fantasy battles. It's also at best a rough draft. So I think you're totally right. This falls in the category of something like Frostgrave, where you've just got a rule set that you're going to be using your pre-existing miniatures for. So there's been a lot of companies that have tried stuff like this. Recently, Monolith has done I forget what it's called, like the Monolith Overlord system, I think is what it was called, where they took all existing game miniatures, things like Cthulhu Wars, Zombicide, Batman, and they kind of conglomerated it all and made a giant game for it. And that failed spectacularly. And that was very recent, about 2 years ago. So I am wondering how often this has been tried. Have you seen any games like this or anything pull it off successfully?
No, I can't think of any, to be honest. But
So I think of this as kind of like almost this could be a print and play, a roll and write, and that kind of falls in that category. People just kind of play testing stuff. The author of this is all the same for all of these Get Some mechanism games. It's just an RPG. Matthew Palmer, if you look at that author here. He's done all these. The game company that he has, Art of War Games, they're also on this publisher list here. He's got he does have a note within that community wiki that he's banned from miniaturespage.com for pirated cover art for these. So buy at your own risk for these types of things. But and that's kind of a heads up to game publishers too, or this more smaller type of indie publisher type people who are trying to get their own stuff, is use your own artwork or use free artwork or something. There's plenty of that stuff out there. So there's no reason to use something that you're going to get flagged for copyright type stuff. But interesting. It's out there. Kudos for putting it out there, right?
It looks definitely like a passion project. Unfortunate that he's been blacklisted from so many things for all that plagiarism. I'm curious to know if the mechanics are also plagiarized. Maybe that's why it didn't take off. And like we saw, the one review was pretty scalding. Not a lot of people that enjoy this one. Any final thoughts before we move on from this wonderful segment?
I am not going to play this game. That's the rating. So,
Dan, this looks right up your alley, man. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan. My favorite faction is no interest.
Get some.
Oh gosh. All right. So this next section, Jordan, this is where you come in. Jordan is our special guest, and as special guest, he gets special pole positioning here in our next segment. Why is this in your collection? Jordan is an avid gamer. He is a very smart and talented guy, and he also can be quite the critic when it comes to board games. So he has taken a chance to look at both of our board game collections on our Board Game Geek page, and he said, why is this in your collection? Now, this could be positive or negative. He could say, Dan, this sucks, or Dan, sell me on this. Or he could say, Mackenzie, I know this sucks. Get your way out of this one. So he's got lots of choices. Jordan, who do you want to start with, and what are we talking about?
So I will start with you, Mackenzie. The one that I want to say, why is this in your collection, is Adventure Time Flux.
Adventure Time Flux. So this actually is no longer in my collection. So it's on my previously owned games list. But I can tell you why it was in my collection, because I have sold it. Or do you want to pick a different game?
Go ahead for this one.
Okay, so Adventure Time Flux, the reason that was in my collection was because this was right around the time where I was getting into the hobby. I was looking for small games that I could bring with me to different places, because at the time I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm a national Yu-Gi-Oh! Champion here in the United States, and one game that I brought with me was this one. It was a great little game that I could play in between rounds of the big Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments, and it's one that I really enjoyed. I thought Adventure Time Flux was great at the time. It had a lot of randomness, and it was a good break from the extreme competitive card game that is Yu-Gi-Oh! At the time, where you have a very set strategy and you are doing what you planned this. This is what I came to do. And then you play Flux and you have no control over anything. It's very random. You're playing cards on each other, lots of take that stuff, and it was a great break. Now, that being said, I do not really like this game a couple times afterwards, once I started getting into the sphere of games and understanding what I liked, and this left the collection quite a while ago. So this is a previously owned game, so I agree with you, Jordan. Why would this be in my collection? Because I was young and innocent back then, and I didn't know any better. That's why Adventure Time Flux was in my collection. So that was my opinions on this. Dan, have you played Flux at all? Do you like this style of game?
Yeah, I played Flux. I hated it. It so random, as you said, and because it's so random, sometimes the games can take 30 seconds, sometimes they can take 30 minutes, and you know, a 5-minute bit of fun, yeah, I don't mind. But when a game can take that long, I'm not doing it.
My favorite thing about this game, though, is the new rules. I think it's a cool idea, is that you can play, because the game is very simple. You draw a card, play a card, and some of the cards can modify the rules. I think that's a great idea and concept. But as you said, Dan, it can really make the game drag or just be miserable. So yeah, this is not one that I'm going to play for. Jordan, do you love this game?
So this one is one, all the sentiments, especially the randomness. It's not one that I particularly like playing a lot. I do think it is a good game to get people interested in something besides a board game, maybe, especially a heavier. It's a good entry game, I think, a good way to get people interested. Then I think that's the place for it. So I think being in a collection, in an early collection, it's fine there, and that's where it belongs. I think it's a good gift for someone, also something like that, especially if you own it now and you're trying to get it out of your collection. Gift it to someone. Why not? So.
And I agree with Tim here. Tim says that Adventure Time is sacred ground. Don't come for Adventure Time anything.
I mean, that's why that's part of the reason I chose this one. So I wanted to know your thoughts on Flux. I also want to know you got Adventure Time. Looking at your collection, you actually have 3 or 4 games that are Adventure Time themed. You've got the burrito game. There's another game.
I'll stand my ground on the burrito game. The Adventure Time anything burrito game is real good.
Yeah.
So maybe that's for a future episode. But I really enjoyed Adventure Time. I still enjoy the art of Adventure Time a lot. I think it's a great style. I love the bright colors and kind of like the bombastic fantasy that they're going with, and I think it makes a great theme. And I think that is one of the strengths of Flux, is that there are so many different themes. So, like you said, it's a great gift. You can really get it to anybody's preference. So, if Flux has a strength, that's it. All right, Jordan, go ahead and grill Dan on something, please. I need a break.
So this is one where it's a pre-order for Dan's collection, and so being the exclusive collection that he has, I'm wondering how does Coca-Cola make it? What's the sale? What's the tag that you're like, this is going to be part of my collection? You haven't seen it, you haven't played it. There's nothing out there. What makes it? What draws you to it?
Yeah, one reason only. It's a Stefan Feld game. I'm a massive sucker for Stefan Feld, and if anything with his name's on it, I would at least check it out. And I think this one, a lot of the games this year are going to be reprints.
Remind me of other games he's done.
Other games that he's done. So
you seem offended, Dan. Other games he's done.
No, Castles of Burgundy, we've got Luna, Bonfire.
For our viewer Tim, who might not know.
Trajan, Amerigo, there's absolutely loads. But the games this year are going to be reprints of older ones, where I think might just be the only exception. And I've not played this one. This was on, I think, Board Game Arena for quite a while. And I think it's been getting some mixed reviews, so I don't know how it's going to go. But so the reason why it's a pre-order is simply because of the designer's pedigree for me. I'm a big sucker for following people that I believe in, and if I've got a kind of a back catalogue of their games and they've generally all been good, I'll at least give them the benefit of the doubt to check out.
It's got some sweet inserts, so it's got game trays in it. I really like the art direction. I think Coca-Cola is a really cool thing that hasn't been explored. So I think this is a good choice, Dan. I didn't back this one personally because, I like to curate my games very closely when they enter the library.
Right. Basically, every game enters the library, and then half of them get shipped off. That's what happens to the side game library.
I like to play them, right? I like to get them in, play them, and if they're good, they get to stay. So you're not wrong. But I don't know why I passed on this one. I didn't know that it was on Board Game Arena. And do you know anybody that played it on Board Game Arena?
No, I don't. I've read some reviews. Some people seem to be really high on it, but saying that it doesn't quite feel like a Feld game. but some people say they really like it. Some people say that it's not all that, but we shall see. I shall hold up, reserve judgment until I play it myself.
I think you're very right. Lots of mixed reviews here, like all the way from 2s to 9s. So I'm curious to know what your thoughts are, Dan. Generally, I trust your opinion pretty strongly. So, I mean, if I gotta put it in the library for a while, I will. So just let me know.
Okay, get your sleeves ready.
So Dan, I can be on board with having a designer that you're like, this guy's a great designer. A lot of my collection was built on that kind of stuff as well. Additionally, Mackenzie pointed out the theme, exploring that. I hope the game kind of captures that theme, and it's not kind of an abstract game that it just has that kind of layer on top. There's been a couple games that were released 2020 that looked like promising artwork, promising themes, and underutilized. So I'm hoping that kind of shines through here. And I find with mixed review games that you can have, a lot of it's dependent on player count, what they did, and how many times that they've played. Don't be afraid or shy away from a game when you see stuff like that, especially a game that's on pre-order and hasn't come out. So
yeah. I will say with if you want theme, I don't think there's going to be much theme here with a Stefan Feld game, but some nice pictures, I suppose.
Yeah. And Tim, I think, was really offended by your comment earlier, Jordan. He says, Stefan Feld? Stefan Field?
Does he say, who's that? Stefan Feld?
He doesn't even know who Stefan Field is. So, yeah. All right. All right. Sweet. So that wraps up our Why Is This in Your Collection section. And we are going to move on to A to Z. So A to Z is where we talk about 2 games each, and each of these games, one's going to be more of a filler style game, a little bit shorter, and one that's a little bit longer, but things that we really enjoy. So Dan, go ahead and start us off. What is your smaller game this week? What are we talking about today?
Yeah, so the smaller game I'm going to talk about is extremely light, and this is actually a game that I started. Well, when I started playing it, I thought I was really underwhelmed with it. To be honest, I wasn't very impressed. But the more and more I played it, it's really grown on me, and I do enjoy this quite a bit now. This is a game called Concept. Concept is a party game where it's essentially a game like charades or Pictionary, where you're trying to get or let other people guess what you're trying to portray. But instead of miming or instead of drawing, in this example, you have this board here, which you can see, and you're using these different markers to give a category to, you're using these as pointers, basically, as signposts to help all the other people decipher what your thing is. It could be a film, it could be a book, it could be just an action, it could be anything at all. But you can be extremely creative with the way this board works, and some things that you might think you'd never ever be able to communicate by just placing these markers down, you can actually end up doing quite a good job. And I find it really fascinating, and it's one of those games where you just enjoy the process rather than going for points or anything like that. It's just a really fun activity, and it's really grown on me. So that's a Concept.
I think it's a great choice, Dan. And really quickly, Emily is joining us this morning. Good morning, Emily. Good to have you. And I think this is great, Dan. I think it's a great choice. I really like this example they have on the back here that kind of shows how you might give a clue for something like B. And I just love the creativity that comes through this game. Yeah. I think it's a great choice. Jordan, have you played this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this isn't one I've played, but this is one that I would want to play because the creativity aspect. I think this would be the good game. One that get people involved, especially people who are more light gamers. This would be something that they could turn to. Have a niece, and this would be one she could play type thing.
And there's even like Concept for kids that has a little bit more easier to approach words and has some more noticeable clues. So it kind of facilitates younger kids being able to make those connections. So I think it's a great step.
Sometimes I find when you have them more complex that it's fun or funny to see what they end up putting together, stringing together type of thing. So I've played a lot of those drawing games where you draw, pass it, draw, pass it, draw, pass it, and you're trying to at the end of the day end up back with the same thing. And those are fun to play with kids too.
Is that Telestrations?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Illustrations.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Jordan, what's the game that you want to talk about? Your shorter one.
So my shorter one is Cartographers. This is another roll and write. I had talked about Imperial Southers earlier. Cartographers is one where you are mapping the kingdom. The queen has sent you out. You are looking for forests, rivers. Along the way, you might find some monsters along that you have to cope with, figure out, map where they live as well. And you're going to have objectives. You can see there in this picture the four things on the left of the map. It's your objectives along the way that are you're going to score you points. There's a handful of those in the box, so there's a few different ways, a few different combinations that you play, so it doesn't get as quickly. But overall, I like this game. For the two roll and writes that I talked about, this would be the better of the two, I think. I like it is a pretty quick game. The one thing I would say would be nice would be having a more objectives, just additional variety. I don't think that it would take very many cards. They have a few cards in there, but you're definitely seeing the same cards over and over. It'd be nice if every time you play you didn't see the same cards. So 10, 15 more of those objective cards, and maybe that means adding another land resource type. Maybe it's swamp or something. That would be something that would really add another replayability to this game. But this is quick. It's portable. It's a good one. So, a nice roll and write.
Have you looked at the expansion for this, Jordan? So there are brand new maps, and it's called Cartographer's Heroes, and it adds exactly what you just described. It adds new scoring cards, so it just increases the amount of variety.
Perfect. I'll get clear sleeves and Cartographer Heroes now. So
great. I'm so happy that you're deciding to improve your gaming experience. Dan, have you played this one?
Yeah, it's in my collection. Really good game. Enjoy it quite a lot, and I'm waiting for the expansion. So yeah, good game.
I agree with you, Dan. Where would this rate in your roll and writes, or I guess your flip and write style games?
Definitely top tier for me. I've not tried masses of these roll and write games, but this is probably top 3 or 4. I think. On another note, I just played the pinball one. That what was called Super something pinball. That was fantastic. So, Jordan, if you like your roll and writes, definitely give that one a look.
I agree. It's a pretty good one.
Great.
I like the pinball one.
Yeah.
Specifically the dragon map. I really like that one. My favorite, hands down. Cool. All right. So my C game that we're going to be talking about today is Camel Up. So Camel Up, I have found incredible success with. In this game, you play as a group of, I guess, gamblers. You've all gathered around this gigantic race, and your job is to predict how these camels are going to really, how they're going to do. You're not only predicting on the camel that's going to win the race, but also on the camel that's going to lose the race. And I think that is just a lot of fun. The game is extremely quick to play. The decisions are quick, but you are having to make extremely tight decisions right away. So I really like that. I really like that you have this aspect of randomness that drives the entire game. And it's one that I've really enjoyed playing with people of all ages. So this is one that I've played with my nephew over Zoom quite a bit, and he's gotten quite good at it. And it's really funny when he's able to make a calculated play and be like, ooh, I think that this character might do well. I think the artwork on the new edition is really cool, and I love that they've incorporated some of the expansions to it as well. So I love Camel Up. It's one that I really enjoy, that I've had a lot of success with. It's extremely language independent as well, so I have a great success with using this in teaching as well. So it's one that I really enjoy. I really like Camel Up. This is one of my favorite games in this style. I've played a lot of games that are bet on people that are racing around a track, and this has been consistently the best one in my opinion. I could see why it won the Spiel des Jahres.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. I've had a lot of fun with it as well over the years. Just weighing up those variables about, if this comes out in this order, it could hitchhike on this camel for ages, and big swings and big kind of exciting moments and things, and it shines through really well for a gambling game, and it's really well executed.
I love those big moments. We had a friend that would always support a specific camel. It didn't matter where he was, or if it was a good idea, he would just try his best to make sure this camel won. And 95% of the time it worked, and it was really hilarious because it was consistently yellow camel was going strong. I loved it. Hilarious. Tim is average wants to add.
This is one.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, this is one that has had a couple of reprints, so you can find a few different artworks out there. They upgraded the pyramid also is kind of nice in the latest one. This is one that also as a 3D print. It has files out there. If you have one of the older versions and you want the nicer pyramid, it's something that you could take to a library, or if you have a 3D printer, that it makes a nice upgrade. When I've played this with people who are kind of newer, that's one thing that it's more of a fiddle with type thing. Kind of the older pyramid with the rubber bands and the cardboard kind of thing. So if you want to make one less thing to have to overcome type thing, especially for newer players, that would be something I would recommend is get the latest version or the upgrade. Yeah.
I agree. I think that the newest version, that upgraded pyramid, it's super nice. You don't have to fiddle with it. It's just easy to go. And Tim is average says that the old edition could be confused as Camel Cup instead. And I agree with him. I mean, I'll show you the artwork here. Camel Cup? Camel Up? Who really knows? It's up to you.
I mean, that's what I think it is. That's what I would call it. Yeah.
Camel Up or Camel Cup?
Camel Cup, yeah. Because it's a cup, it's the race, it's the the NASCAR cups, that kind of thing.
But they stack up, Jordan.
Ooh, true.
Like
maybe another this or that for next week.
Oh my gosh. That's great. Emily C, she says that she hasn't tried any of these first three. They sound like great ones. And she's also been playing Wild Space, and she's really enjoying this as a filler. But Emily, Wild Space doesn't start with the letter C. Come on now. All right, Dan, what do we got? What's our next one here?
Okay, so the more involved game, and this is at a stretch, it's kind of a medium-like level game, but this is a game called Coal Baron, the Great Card Game. So this is a game that I never hear anybody talk about, which is why I wanted to talk about it a little bit. And I know these kind of medium to lightweight worker placement games, they're immensely popular. They're very successful as a general genre. They seem to do a good job of always selling well and things like that. But this one I wanted to give a bit of spotlight to, because out of all those games like that, I think this is probably my favorite one. Thinking of games like Lords of Waterdeep, like Stone Age, even like Architects of the West Kingdom. This one is a game where you are trying to load coal into the back of these carts and ship them off to fulfill these contracts, getting these trains and things. This game just works extremely well. It has quite an interesting worker placement system that's based purely on cards. As you are basically allocating your workers to these different spots, as I said, picking up all these different things. But if you go somewhere, the following players, if they want to go to the same spot as you, they have to play exactly one strength worker more than you. And as the game goes on, that can actually throw a bit of a spanner in the works, because if there's only one worker allocated to a certain worker placement spot, then they're going to have to play exactly two workers there, but they might only have a hand of their 3 and 4 worker left in their hand. And it just creates some really good decision space there, and you can really kind of throw people off by the way you play these cards. It has a great kind of linear track system as you're getting the coal, loading them into the wagons, shipping them off, getting the orders. You can get bonuses as well, and it just works well, and it just I think it's quite tangible and quite you can really understand what you're doing in this one by the way it all flows. All the cards fit together nicely in a satisfying way. It's just a really good game, and I really do recommend this one. And it's a shame it didn't take off as well as I think it could have.
Dan, I think I'm in love. This looks so good. Oh wow! I've never heard of this. I think you're totally right. People should
I haven't
look.
heard of this one either.
Wow! Holy cow!
Yeah, I found this at a Games Expo a couple of years ago for like £8, which is like next to nothing. I just took a massive punt on it, and it's really well done. And I said I always advocate this one if people like those worker placement games, but maybe bored of playing the same ones over and over again. This is what I always recommend.
Oh man, it just looks so satisfying being able to slot everything in. Oh, this
Yeah.
is great. Great choice. Anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, just I don't know how available it is actually, if it's still in print or anything like that. But
And Emily wants to know how does this compare to the regular board game? Have you
okay,
played?
so I actually haven't played the regular board game. That's impossible to get in the UK. I can't get hold of it. But you know, on its own respect, this one's really good.
All right, Jordan, anything to add?
No, this is one I'm going to have to play. Yeah.
Oh, looks so cool. Awesome. And then Jordan, what is your larger game for this week?
So this is one. It's a lot larger, as in maybe longer time, more investment, more stuff. But it's actually compact, I'd say. So it's Castles of Burgundy, but it's the card game version of Castles of Burgundy. Between the two, I get the tactile feel. You got Castles of Burgundy has a lot of stuff. The card game version of this game I enjoy because I feel like it becomes a little bit more portable at that point. It's still a pretty in-depth game, I guess, as far as the length of time you're going to do. But the mechanics are still relatively simple. And have a nice balance of stuff. For Castles of Burgundy, you are building your reserves from a field of cards that you are going to be drafting from. You're going to be trying to make sets. Those sets are going to give you bonuses along the way. Those bonuses are going to enable you to get more cards, more workers, more ways to score points. So at the end of the game, you want to have these different sets of cards. The more sets you have, the better, the more points you're going to score. You also have opportunity to just sell goods along the way. Those goods are going to give you points. And so overall, I think the card game version of this does it really well, especially you've got some of these multi-use cards. This image you're showing here, it has the building that you're putting on into your architecture area, but also has a die on the top. So that die is kind of acting as a die in the game. Instead of rolling dice, you're drawing cards. So it has a dual purpose. And then you've got the kind of reward bonus down at the bottom. So overall, I really enjoy this game. This is one I play quite frequently. I would say the only downside, these are miniature cards. So they're about 2.5 inches.
Good thing you don't sleeve your cards.
Oh, that's good thing. Yeah, this would all of a sudden become double the size if I sleeve them. But there are a couple of the brown cards that are all unique buildings, and so you are like, which building is this? Am I sure this is the right building? Because they're small cards and small artwork on small cards. You're like, okay, it's not a big deal. But the card size is like, okay, these are really small cards, and it's kind of fun as well.
And Tim says that the way the cards spread over the table, it's definitely a big game. I totally agree with Tim on here. I've played this one. You've actually
deceiving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You think, I just need a couple, a spot from me, spot from you. No, you need like a full board game setup table, like space, because you need to see everything as it's out there.
Have you played this, Dan?
No, I've not played any of the offshoots of Castles of Burgundy. I've heard good things about them both, though. How long does this one take in comparison to the original? Because I know the original you can play relatively quickly anyway once you get your head around the rules. So,
yeah, for this one, I would say once you have your head around the rules, I'd say there's a little bit less of a barrier to entry. I'd say the rules are a little bit more straightforward with this one, but time-wise, it takes about the same amount of time.
Okay.
So this one was one that I think is fine. It's not one that I would go to over the original game because, like Jordan said, it does take up about the same amount of space. So I would just probably play the original version. I like all the little expansions that the original version has. I like rolling dice. I think it's fun, and I like the mitigation and the abilities. I like the idea of building out this castle in front of you and the strategic placement of the actual tiles as opposed to just creating sets. So I think it eliminates a little bit of that. But overall, I think a game is solid. It's a great card game version of a game like Castles of Burgundy.
Okay.
Have either of you played Castles of Tuscany?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I find it strange because they all kind of seem to be fighting for the same space on your shelf, really. The same kind of games.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're maybe milking the cow a bit too much. But I always, my kind of takeaway from the Castles of Tuscany was that the rule is slightly lighter than the Castles of Burgundy, but the gameplay is quite a bit less satisfying. So for me, I always say it's worth that extra 20% of a teach to get 70% more of a game out of it, if that makes sense.
And that's kind of the reason why I didn't try Tuscany or didn't even get it into the library. It seemed just like a subpar version of Castles of Burgundy. So I didn't.
It really was.
Gotcha.
Yep. You have given me some confirmation bias. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. All right. So the last game that we're talking about is my C game. This is going to be Clans of Caledonia. So this game is so good. It is a 10 out of 10 game for me. It takes the idea of building on a map from games like Terra Mystica and Gaia Project. Holy cow, it is so awesome. So it's a lot of people will explain this game as like Eurogame greatest hits. It has contract fulfillment. It has the engine building. It has building out. It has economic factors. It has a changing market. It does so much in such a little package because the game box itself is also extremely small. The components are wonderful. It's got a great theme and it has asymmetry in how all the factions work. I love this game. I think they do it so well. So it's one that I really enjoy. It's got a great theme connecting it. And my favorite part is actually the engine building itself, putting things on the map. So whenever you build on this map, first off, the map is modular. So it's going to change every time, but the spaces on the board have costs printed on them. And the different buildings that you put out also will have different costs. So you're constantly thinking about how to, get the best value for the tiles, but certain scoring criteria might say that you want to be on specific, types of terrain. Certain people can only go on specific terrain. You've just got lots of really cool options here that you can pick from. And even things like building a cow on an empty field is better because if you slaughter the cow, you're going to want to be able to put it back out on the field at a cheaper rate. So it's weird because you have to predict the timing. Oh, it's just so good. I really like this one. Yep. And Tim is Average agrees with me. He's a big Clans fan. Emily asked if it's out of print. I don't know, Emily. I have not looked. I got this one maybe 3 or 2 years ago when the original printing. Great one, though. I really like Clans of Caledonia. It takes a lot of the things I really enjoy and boils it down to this really interesting little package. So big fan here.
Yeah, this was actually a game annoyingly, I was quite underwhelmed with. And I can't quite put my finger on why, because as you said, it has a lot of things that I tend to really enjoy, particularly things like the market, and it's got the variable player powers as well, all really nice. But I don't know what it was. It just didn't excite me at all. It felt very flat to me. I don't know. It just didn't seem to have that ramping up effect. It didn't really take off. But I liked it. I rated it about 6.5. But unfortunately, it didn't really do it for me, and I can't quite put my finger on why.
I take back my comments earlier. I don't trust you anymore, Dan.
No.
It's okay. It's not for everybody. I can definitely see.
Oh yeah, you gave me confirmation bias, but
I can see it. Actually, I can't. I don't understand how. What was underwhelming? What was the thing that you really didn't like about it?
I don't know. I think it was because I didn't find the engine like it was like ramping up from. I felt like it was flatlined from start to finish. I didn't really have that arc that really I tend to enjoy for most of the games that I rank like top tier. I don't know. I only played it a couple of times, and the first time I thought I was a little bit underwhelmed. Second time I thought let's try it again because I know it's extremely well received. Maybe I'm missing something, and I felt exactly the same again. And I also found there was that strange rule where you've got those more rare resources where they would kind of the more common they were, the less they'd be worth at the end.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember that correctly.
Yeah, there's the imported goods whenever you bring something in.
Yeah, I found that a bit fiddly and a bit unnecessary, but I don't know. Maybe it just didn't hit. It wasn't for me.
Okay. I really like that
engine-
rule. It's got a cool dynamic scoring to it because it's up to the players to decide on what the values of the different contracts are based on how much you're importing in. So I really like that. I think it's a really simple way to add dynamic scoring. So, but I can see where you might find that it might be something that's unnecessary or convoluted. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Jordan.
Yeah, so Mackenzie, with engine building games, I always find that if it's a game you go back to and you say, "Ooh, I wish I had one more turn," that takes away a lot of the flatness because you feel like you're like really kind of got to a point where you've got your engine going, you've got something that you've really worked for. Is this one that you say has that feeling when you get to the last round?
No, I feel like it's a pretty good.
So I think that's maybe where Dan's coming from, is the flatness, where you're just like, maybe it's not as dynamic as it could be. Because I feel like when you feel a game is like, oh man, okay, maybe I'll try another round, see how that makes it, how that changes the game. Because if you do that round, sometimes it's like, ooh, now it's just kind of it's stale because like, oh yeah, I've done too much, or I did everything, I don't have anything else to do for like one extra turn in that round or something like that. But it's you like really appreciate the shorter round. That's how I feel like kind of marks a good engine building game.
Interesting. Good take. I agree with you. You need to have that satisfaction, that the thing that pulls you back and makes you want to play more. I think this one does it well. It has this interesting mechanism where you're fulfilling contracts, but the contracts get more expensive the more time goes on. So in the later rounds, they're harder to get. So yes, you have more goods to fulfill them, but it's also going to cost you more, so you're able to fulfill less. Whereas in earlier rounds, to take contracts, you actually get paid for it because you have less goods to actually spend. So I think the arc is pretty consistent, and I can see why that might make it seem a little flat because the contracts don't really change. You're not feeling any stronger because it's kind of curved out throughout the game. So I respect your opinions, and I can see where you're coming from. You can stay as co-host, Dan. Sorry to disappoint Tim. But
So it's not a game I disliked at all. I thought it was a really solid design, just not amongst the best for me.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I think whatever Emily had asked is it's on print, so that it is still available. You can go find it, a new copy. Amazon's got it, whatever. They also, the secondhand market is pretty alive with it. So check out your eBay listings or your geek marketplace listings and stuff. It's available. It came out in 2017, so it's a relatively newer game.
And then Emily also wants to add that her favorite C game is going to be Chocolate Factory. She likes moving things on her little belt, another engine building game. So that's seems to be a common trend on this one. So great, Emily. Thanks for chiming in. We appreciate it. And if anybody else wants to add things that they enjoy that start with C, we'd love to hear it. But that's the end of our section for A to Z. And that brings us to our final thing for today. This is our audience engagement and specifically our questions. So our question of the week. So over on Dan's channel, he's put out a poll. Dan, you want to go ahead and take away on this section, please?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, last episode we put a question out asking how much time you spend playing board games on average per week. So with brackets we put down were 0 to 2 hours, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 12, and then 12 hours plus per week. We had 336 responses, so a good bit of participation there. And the breakdown is quite consistent under the first three brackets. So 0 to 2 hours was exactly 25%. So people probably playing 1 or 2 games per week. The 2 to 4 bracket was 38%, so that was the biggest percentage there. Then we've got the 4 to 8 hours being 26%, and the 8 to 12 to 8%, and then 12 hours plus only 2%. So pretty predictable there. I think not many people are getting to play 12 hours plus. If I was on the list, I'd probably just fit into that 4 to 8 hour bracket, maybe on the lower end of that. What about you guys? Where would you fit on that scale?
So I have voted already. I sit in the 12 plus hour range. Generally, I play about maybe 3 or 4 hours of games a day. So
Okay.
I play a lot of games. Yeah, I'm very much an anomaly where I just play a lot of games all the time.
Yeah, for me, I'd probably fit into the somewhere 0 to 4. Given the week, probably the 0 to 2. Playing probably 1 game a week type thing.
And then Emily here is chiming in. She says most of our game time is on the weekends, which totally makes sense. We have busy lives. It makes sense. Some of us are lucky. We don't have a lot of responsibilities. Right now, it's the summer for me. And in general, I'm pretty young. I don't have any kids or anything. So I've got a lot of time that I can spend on hobbies. So it works out. But Dan, what would you say for yourself? Anything that's keeping you from playing games? Or is it just kind of like a self-regulation thing? Or...
No. I mean, I'll seize the opportunity if I can. So the person I play games with most is my brother. My brother works shifts. I work shifts as well. So there's a lot of time where we don't cross over. And work and stuff as well. It's all these things. And but again, if I have the opportunity to play, I will. And if I could play 12 hours a week, then I absolutely would. So it's nothing to do with self-regulation.
Jordan, what about yourself?
Well, I think for this week we're going to be in that 12, probably 8 to 12 hour plus with FrankCon going on. So looking forward to that. Definitely have a lot of good games that kind of came out last year or early this year that I'm looking forward to. Probably the highlight of that. Interested in Marvel Champions, seeing how that one ends up. But yeah, definitely going to make up a lot of that time this week. Overall, just other activities. So it's just a pick and choose type thing for me.
Makes sense. And you're down here in Florida, so there's a lot of great outdoor activities that you can do.
A lot of outdoor stuff that we do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. And yeah, you got to make that choice on what you want to do.
Yeah, it's great when you have a winter because then you're forced. Like this morning it was raining. Right now we're getting into hurricane season. So that may be a reason to play more games is being indoors because of all the rain. So this was actually the first rain we've had in a little while. So.
Emily, you're killing me. Oh, man. I can definitely understand this. Holy cow. I've played with some people that have major AP, and it can feel like that. It's like, oh, my gosh, you're extending my game time.
Oh, my gosh.
Dan, do you have any groups where anybody suffers from major AP?
I think generally our groups are pretty good, actually. Yeah, we're pretty easy going and get it going. I try to make a conscious effort of get my turnover as quickly as possible. If that's suboptimal, then so be it.
Yeah, how do you get that guy in your group who's got the analysis process? You're like, come on. Like part of it's that they're especially in games where you can do the planning type thing. That's really that. Man, any advice there? How to get someone moving along?
Oh, I'll just tell them.
Yeah. Oh man, so I have a friend that I game with a lot, and he suffers from AP a lot. So generally, what I'm going to do is I just don't bring games that cause AP to game nights. I think that's my biggest solution because that's just how it is. For example, my dad is terrible at this, so he has AP like no one's business. We played a game of viticulture with him for like 6 hours one time, and I couldn't believe it because this is like. Just put your worker on the board, man. It is not that hard. And he's like, but I need the points. And I'm like, Dad, come on, what are you doing? And so what I've done is I've mainly brought out games that are either super random or are simultaneous play or games where you cannot plan out turns. And so that he's just got to make the decision. Quick tactical moves. So it's all about that style of game. So that's been my biggest thing. But if I play with other people, like for example Jordan here, he is great when it comes to AP. He just makes a decision. So one of my favorite persons to game with. It's awesome. So it depends. It depends on the person. That's how I approach it at least.
So mentally, the way that I think you have to approach it is you have to make it lower stakes. Yeah, someone who has AP, it's because the game they're in it to win. If you make more about the fun and the being around people, that is where I found you can convert someone from being AP to non-AP. It's almost an incentive to because you're like, let's play another game or something. You get more to the table, but that's the way. That would be my advice to convert.
Yeah, good suggestion there.
That makes sense to me. All right, Dan, and what's our question for next week? What are we going to be asking in the poll? I guess not next week, but next time.
Let's have a look. Did we select one or just pick one from the list?
I say pick one from the list, one that you're feeling.
Okay. Let's do optimal or your preferred player count then. So we'll break it down into one, so if you want to play solo, 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, or 5 plus. So your preferred player count in which you want to play your games.
All right, so that is our question for next time. What is your preferred player count? So make sure you go check out Chairman of the Board's channel. Make sure you're subscribed, of course, and then always vote on there so that we can include it in next week's. And if anybody has any questions or comments before we finish our video today, this is our last section, so make sure to put any questions or comments down in that live chat so that we can respond to them. So Tim does have a comment on AP. He says he used to get real bad AP and he had to eliminate takebacks. So taking leaps of faith. And I love that. I think that's a great system. I actually did a video on my channel a while ago. This was a side conversation about takesies, backsies. And the way that I do it is everybody gets 1. And so if you're going to get, if you take a take back, that's it. That's your 1 for the entire night. I even printed out little cards that say takesies, backsies on them. So you have a physical reminder that you get 1. So I think that's a great idea, is just don't do takebacks. Commit, try something new, big strategy, leap of faith. I like the way you described that.
Yeah.
So I found, I think I've discussed this with you a little bit, is especially with someone that you're going to play often with, and maybe they have mild AP, is go ahead and give them the, again, make it as low stakes as possible. Okay, go ahead, encourage them to make their move. If they need to take it back later, it's low stakes. Again, you're playing for fun, and unless there's something really that is on the stakes on the line, have them take it back. Especially if it doesn't affect anything in the game. If you're trying to get over the AP, have them play games where it's easy to take back, where you can go back a couple of moves or something. Again, as someone who's playing against someone who wants to take stuff back, go ahead. It's more challenging. If you think that was a better move, I'm going to go ahead and change my strategy as you go along. To me, it enables them to go ahead and make that move faster, because then they feel like I can take it back if I need to. And then they end up later on being to the point where they don't need to take it back because they're in the habit of making that move quickly.
Can that ever backfire, where you're letting somebody take back so much stuff, and then maybe you get to a game like a big area control, battle, combat game, and all of a sudden combat doesn't go their way, and they're like, maybe I should take that back? Has that ever happened? Like, I've had that happen in a game of Blood Rage, where somebody jumps into a battle and they're like, yeah, I'm going to fight, and then they lose the fight, and they're like, I didn't want to do that. And I'm like, I don't think it works like that, bud.
I allow takebacks as long as you can reverse it back to a point that's not going to affect anybody else. That's my general philosophy.
Yeah. As long as no information has changed. That's my philosophy. Is no one has made a move that's dependent on what that person's done. For example, like shown their hand. No one's rolled a die or drawn a new card or something like that. So, Mage Knight. Have you played the Mage Knight board game? There's a rule baked into that game that says you can take back as much as you'd like, but as soon as an element of chance or randomness has been revealed, something new information is presented, then you can no longer go back. And I think that's really cool. I think it builds it into this system, and I think that's really awesome that it allows for taking back.
My advice is to the people who are playing regularly and you're playing a regular game with, and maybe you're especially for 2-player and you want to continue playing games like that, that's where I would say the takesies backsies is more do it until someone's comfortable at that point. I would say the general philosophy that Dan pointed out being applicable, especially when you're playing in groups. When you're playing in those big groups, I think that you get to a point where that person who had AP or had trouble making decisions, they get to a point where they're like, oh, I realize I'm doing it. You've been letting me take things back type thing. And now I'm in a group where maybe I don't play with them as often and stuff. I know I can't take back, and now there are a little bit more stakes, but I've already got over that habit. So it is what it is. I already feel like there's less stakes. So again, you're kind of creating that safe space for them to do that, to get over, because it really is. It's something you got to be comfortable getting over as someone who, I mean, honestly, I feel like I had AP at some point and have really made a concerted effort to get over that. So
makes sense. Yeah. Anything else we want to add before we close up this corporate cardboard meeting?
I'm good.
All right. Same here. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Dan and Jordan. It was great to have you as our special.
Dan, great to meet you. Yeah.
Yeah, you too. Hopefully, I'll speak to you again soon on here.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Great. Thanks so much again, everybody, for watching and joining us live. Tim, always good to have you. Emily, great to see you again. Our strong man, Tim, always coming in clutch. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much. And anybody who's watching afterwards, thanks again for tuning in for Corporate Cardboard. Side Game Strong, everybody. See ya.
Goodbye.